Hi, my name is Seth Brown, and I am the Executive Director of the National Municipal Stormwater Alliance. And I'm going to take some time here today to talk about the STEPP program, which is the Stormwater Testing and Evaluation for Products and Practices program that we are leading here at the Alliance. Before getting into the STEPP program, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about NMSA itself, the National Municipal Stormwater Alliance. We are a coalition of organizations at the state and regional level focused entirely on the MS4 program. We don't have individuals as members, but we have individuals who are representatives of organizations and membership that way. Our motivation for formation is we want to unite the MS4s across the country in a way. Right now we're 7,500 MS4s across the country, obviously pulled together through a network of primarily state-led programs. We want to be able to pull those states together and the MS4s together as well in a more united way to be proactive on the policy side, as well as the technical side. We want to just overall connect and unite MS4s for more peer-to-peer learning and information exchange. We want to change the view of MS4s and stormwater investments to be seen as a resource, not a burden, and we just want to raise awareness of stormwater overall. So our vision is very simple. We want to help provide clean water for the nation by doing so by providing technical support to make MS4s more as cost effective and technically effective as possible. You can see here in this map, we've got about 24 states that are part of our coalition at this point in the Alliance. We've got a number of individual MS4s that have joined, and we've got around 25 or so affiliate members. Those are anybody else, nonprofits, commercial entities, consultants, technologists, others who've got an interest in the MS4 sector. So that's where we're coming from. Just want to give you that context before going too far. So on to STEPP, which is really the focus of what I'm talking about today. As you can see, again, it's the Stormwater Testing and Evaluation for Products and Practices program. And really, it's the STEPP program is prefaced on trying to answer this question: how well do stormwater products and practices work? So it's a loaded question. It's not something we're really going to answer here in this conversation, but it makes you think. We have to think about performance in our sector, and that's really what STEPP is about. So the problem statement that drives STEPP is that there is no national organization that provides consistent, technically driven and objective testing and verification on the performance of stormwater products and practices. There are some great state programs, but there's nothing at the national level at this time. So we feel like that's a challenge that needs to be addressed. Our goal is to establish that national testing and evaluation program for verification. And I'll talk about verification versus certification in a second. I also want to focus, or I want to highlight, we're talking about products and practices. So that's both proprietary products as well as public domain practices. But overall, we want to increase the overall level of performance. We want to raise the bar, not lower the bar, across the country on the confidence of the performance of our infrastructure. Ultimately, that's going to lead to improved water quality. That's really what we're driving at. That's what it's about. Just real quickly, some background and the principles behind STEPP. This was started a while ago, in 2012, about 10 years ago, by the Water Environment Federation, who led that for about 8 years. We did some initial, and I was at WEF and helped to start this back at that time. We put together some feasibility studies to make sure that we did our due diligence, to make sure that we weren't being redundant, make sure that there was feasible and it was needed in the sector. A lot of interest at that time, and it continued on. We got some funding from EPA through the Water Environment Research Foundation, now the Water Research Foundation, to kind of frame out what would this look like, and building upon those efforts back in that time frame. NMSA has now taken over the STEPP program, working with WEF to move it forward. And you can see the principles are listed here. Again, as I mentioned before, we're talking about performance testing of products and practices. We drive or strive for a parity between products and practices. Right now, there's a lot of focus on testing and evaluation and verification of performance for proprietary products, but not so much on the public domain practices. We feel like we should want to know and have better confidence in all of our infrastructure, whether that's proprietary or not. I mentioned before that we're trying to establish this national or multi-state program. We want to leverage these great existing state programs, primarily Washington, their TAPE program, Technology Assessment Protocol for Ecology, which is a field-based testing and verification program, and the New Jersey Corporation for Advanced Technology, or NJCAT. That's another verification program that's based primarily in the lab context. Again, our focus here is on verification, not certification. I'll talk about that in a second. And we're trying to put together a flexible program so that we are not prescriptive. It's up to the states and the jurisdictions to decide for themselves how to use verified data, whether that's approved for use in their jurisdictions or state. We're not trying to make those decisions. That's up to those who hold the permits, frankly. And we also know that we're never going to get this right initially. We want this to be as good as it can be up front, and then we're going to evolve over time. There's also new technologies in testing and evaluation practices that we know that we'll have to adopt moving forward. So we know that we're going to continually evolve. I mentioned before about verification versus certification. Really want to drive this home because there's a lot of confusion about this, about what do these terms mean. So I just want to be very clear. Verification means testing of the performance of a product or practice in a very standardized, objective, and technically sound way to look to verify the claims of performance, whether that's 80% TSS removal or 60% phosphorus removal, whatever that is, based upon, of course, a standardized way of doing that. That's different than certification. Certification says you are certified, or an entity is certified and using a product or practice within their jurisdiction. So again, those who hold permits really are in the best place to certify. We're focusing on that left box, which is verification. And one thing we've done to help support that is establish a new committee within ASTM, which is the standards, the standards for testing and materials program or organization. A new committee called E64. It's named E64 Stormwater Control Measures. I would ask anybody to go check that out. $75 a year. I don't get paid by them, but I just want to let folks to know that that's around, and that's where we're really setting up these standardized ways of testing. It's going on right now. We've already done a lot of the lab testing. We're going on to the field testing now. So this is a real thing, and it's moving forward, and it's really underpins that. As I think has been mentioned, ASTM, which is the American Society for the Testing of Materials International, has agreed to set up a new a committee on, or not just has agreed to, but actually has set up a new committee on stormwater. It's called the ASTM E64 Committee on Stormwater Control Measures. You can see the link that's provided there. Would encourage anybody to join. Don't feel like you have to be developing or expect that you have to develop standards to be involved. Actually, there's a lot of activity that just is involved with reviewing standards. So, and we need to get as many public folks involved, whether that's at the state level, whether that's regulators, whether that's local MS4 jurisdictions, whoever it is, so that you're the consumers of these standards, or the ones who are going to use these quite a bit. And it's great to understand that from your perspective that the standards being developed are legitimate, and you're aware of what they are. So this committee was established about a year and a half ago. So that was 2020 or so, 2021, and right now, since that time, we've been really focusing on developing lab-based performance testing standards because those are more straightforward. Those are pretty well developed. We've been focusing on bringing the ones from the New Jersey, the lab-based protocols from the New Jersey Corporation for Advanced Technology Verification program into ASTM and make them kind of a valid in the context of ASTM, I'll say. So a lot of those are being finalized at this point. We've gotten very far on that. We have a new one that's not part of NJCAP, but something that we feel is very important, which is a trash capture standard for gross solids and floatables and those type of things. So that's what's been going on a lot lately. Continues to go on. We're now initiated field-based standards to get and those are based upon primarily on the Washington State Technology Assessment Protocol for Ecology, which is what I mentioned before, their verification program. So that's that's moving forward right now. It's going to take a bit of time, but we're moving forward with that. And we've got a strategic planning that's being addressed here, so that we know where we're going to go in the future. So that's where things are. Would really encourage folks to get involved with this, but you should be aware that this is out there, and this is where STEPP is focusing on the development of these credible testing standards, performance testing standards and methods, because they're so universally acknowledged and understood and used by all sorts of folks in the construction industry and in the public infrastructure sector as well. Verification. So the basic overview of what STEPP will be doing, we're refining this right now, but this is the overflow, or this is an overview of the kind of the flow of actions and decisions here. It starts with this submission of an application for verification. So there's a representative who wants to get something verified. So they submit that. STEPP will work through. There's a standardized application process. There's going to be there's a template QAP, Quality Assurance Project Plan, that says this is how the testing needs to be done. We will review that. We help review the application, identify which ASTM standards, if any, apply, and then submit the verification application to the right testing facility. So we don't do the testing, but we oversee the testing process and make sure that it's done right. Then we review all of that. We use external reviewers. I'll talk about that in a second, who don't have a conflict but are highly qualified to help provide that objective and technically sound review. And then, of course, we document all of this, and once that's done, there's a proof of verification. That report that's provided is given back to the product or practice representative. They go to the state or locality or the interested party to say, here's some verified data results based, that's following the STEPP process and protocols using ASTM standards to the degree possible. And it's up to the locality to say, well, we either certify or we won't. And then after a certain amount of time, products will have to be retested. So that's really the overview of it. Our framework is pretty straightforward. We've got a leadership council that's being established. This is all, we're all in the effort right now of establishing all of this, but this is where we are now. So we have a leadership council that's going to go and oversee everything. We have a stakeholder subcommittee where states, jurisdictions, researchers, other interested parties can tie in and provide support about is this working for them, what needs to be changed, what needs to be altered to make sure that STEPP is providing the right services. We also we'll have a technical subcommittee, which is the verification and protocol and processes subcommittee, making sure that the technical side of STEPP is moving forward. Of course, we'll have STEPP staff that's going to administer all of this, and we have a board of external reviewers. Again, these are highly qualified technical experts who do not have any ties to the technologies or the practices that are being reviewed. So there's some a level of objectivity there. So thinking about this in the context of MS4s and states, STEPP is designed to inform on performance, as I talked about, specifically on stormwater products. So again, think about STEPP as a performance testing verification program. We want to help to enable states and jurisdictions to understand whether a technology or product or practice meets their performance standards. That's really what we're trying to do. So again, if it's 80% TSS removal, if that's your standard, our verification reports and efforts should say whether they meet that or they do not meet that. So that way it makes it a little bit easier for those trying to make these decisions as much as possible. Based upon meeting these performance standards or not, regulatory credit can be given, and so this helps to justify and make those decisions more clear for MS4s and for states. Tied to this, of course, is the estimate for pollutant load reduction. So again, if it's 80% TSS removal, this technology or this product or practice has shown that it can do that. Great, we can assign that, which is really helpful, I think, especially on the TMDL side of the ledger. And as stormwater manual guidances are developed, hopefully STEPP can be integrated into these and also help to drive and provide more clarity on policies related to regulatory crediting and pollutant load reduction as well. especially at the local level, being able to review a set of plans and make sure that stormwater control measures that are selected and sized are done so correctly or at least appropriately for that jurisdiction in that region. So again, this is focused on trying to make sure that a jurisdiction can say, is this technology or product in this instance, is that approved in this area or not in this region in the state? This should make that easier. Beyond that, it should say, is this being used properly and applied properly? So it should be helpful in making those decisions as well. And you know, there's this evolving landscape of pollutants. There's emerging contaminants that are coming up. There's microplastics. There's PFAS. All these things going on. So as STEPP evolves, we're going to try to do everything we can to stay consistent with that evolving pollutant landscape. So this should be a way for states and jurisdictions to be able to stay current that way in a more reasonable way. So. The other thing to think about is those are values. The other thing is that we're looking for STEPP to reduce a burden on the public staff by, first of all, eliminating on the product side, eliminating the time or greatly reducing the time, and just engaging with MTD representative, manufacturer treatment device representatives, which can be, you know, that can take a significant amount of time. And because they're trying to get their products approved in your state or jurisdiction. And that takes some time to go back with emails and meetings. They can, if a state or jurisdiction is part of STEPP, they can say, look, if you got a question or problem with a determination or an approval or certification or whatever it is, we base our decisions on STEPP. Go talk to STEPP about that. So that way, it's you know, you don't have to deal with that on a daily basis or on a consistent basis at least. The other thing is that instead of every state and jurisdiction having their own testing program and verification program and evaluation program, this works at provides an economy of scale. I know that there'll be questions about a national testing program looking at regional differences, and that's clearly something that needs to be addressed, and we are addressing that, and we're looking for ways to take testing results in one area, being able to transfer it to another in a credible way. We're working with states right now to understand how that can be done in a technically sound way. But by having a national program or a multi-state program, it reduces the costs for states so they can have a shared costs. And by supporting STEPP, the hope is that the cost for supporting us will be much less than it would be for you to have to deal with MTD representatives, have to set up your own program as well. And also, the time taken to address really critical stormwater issues and topics, especially in the certification process. So we hope to again provide that some clarity so that makes it a little bit easier to go through these and address these issues in a consistent, incredible way. So what can states and jurisdictions do at this time? In the near term, the first thing to do, I would say, is to adopt some kind of policy on stormwater testing and verification. If you don't have a program or process set up, I would suggest you try to start doing that as soon as possible. The quickest way to do that right now is to focus on maybe adopting the Washington TAPE or the New Jersey CAT program, or both, however you want to do that, because STEPP is relying on those and is going to eventually be the national program that leverages those testing programs and verification programs. So that's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is consider joining us. We've got a leadership group. We've got some public entities involved. We've got some manufacturer companies as well to help us shape this. We're going over we're in year one. We're wrapping up year one of a 3-year plan to get this launched. So we're getting much closer. It might not even take another 2 years. I think it's going to take less, hopefully. In the long term, we hope that states and jurisdictions engage with our stakeholder committee. So that way, again, we know that the services being provided are the ones that are needed, and if there's any issues, then we can learn from this input. What do we need to do to stay current and to provide the value that's needed? Anyway, so that's what this is all about. I just wanted to give a quick overview on that and provide some information for you to follow up. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Again, Seth Brown, my email address is listed right there, or you can go to our website. It's not a very detailed website. We're enhancing it right now, but if you have any questions at all at any time, please check that out. Check out the website and contact me at any time, and I'll get back to you promptly. And with that, I think that's all I have, and I appreciate the time that you're taking to do the survey, and I think it's going to help us out as we move forward with this. So thanks for taking the time.